нашій програмі далі. І, як, знаєте, завжди бувають форс-мажори в офлайні, так само вони і бувають і в онлайні. Ми трошки затрималися з часом, але і пропускаємо заплановану активність поговорити в групах, але вона буде у нас точно ще після обідньої перерви. І зараз ми не зробимо коротку паузу, як планували, тому що наші двоє гостей з Trans-Europe Halls вже чекають підключення, і воно було заплановано на конкретний час. Так? Бо якщо ви не проти, то ми їх запрошуємо зараз. Так, і зараз на наступному слайді є інформація про цих людей, і я передаю слово Юлі, вона представить колег.
Так, і я одразу попереджу, що це буде включення англійською мовою, ми це робимо без перекладу, і були впевнені, ні для кого з вас це не стане проблемою. Hello, Хосе.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Hosse is connecting to us from Finland.
Sweden.
Sweden. Oh,
Sweden,
you moved this night. and we have Fridо.
Hello.
Hi, Fridо. And Fridо is from Berlin now, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So this connection to a bit wider geography than Ukraine. We are happy you joined us today, and you represent Trans-Europe Halls, a big community in Europe connecting non-governmental cultural centers, community-driven cultural centers, and your experience and expertise are just great for us to get to know how this community is going through this pandemic situation now, and how what do you think, how it changed your planning, your organizations? Please give us a short input into this. And I know that Trans-Europe Halls made also a movie about cultural centers and a possible world without cultural centers. Oh my God, please no. Yeah, but I would like to ask Jose Rodraghez to start like a general presentation about Trans-Europe Halls. Then we watch a movie, and afterwards Fridо from UFA Fabrik Berlin would tell us a particular situation in one of the members of Trans-Europe Halls. Jose Rodraghez and Fridо Hinde today with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you for the introduction. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here with you today. And yeah, so as you have said, we are representing Trans-Europe Halls. Fridо is one of our board members. And I work in the office for several years now in different roles. And yeah, so I would like to start with a brief introduction about what Trans-Europe Halls is for those of you who don't know the organization. And then we can go into the COVID-19 and the measures and the impact. So Trans-Europe Halls is the European network of independent cultural centers, or non-governmental, alternative, underground, as however you want to call them. And we are based in Sweden, in the south of Sweden, in a little city called Lund. So here are the headquarters. And the network was started in 1983 in Brussels, but it's been moving around the headquarters of the organization, from Brussels to Paris, then to Finland, where it was for 1 year in Helsinki, and around 15 years ago or so, it moved to Sweden. So what do we do? As I said before, we are a network of cultural centers. At the moment, we have around 140 members in 35 European countries. And what we do is to support the sustainable development of independent cultural centers. So basically, we connect them, and we support them, and we advocate for them. at different levels, from the national level to the European level. For this, we have different types of activities and programs. Probably the most well-known and most important are the international conferences that we organize every 6 months. And each one of these conferences is hosted by one of our members. Apart from these conferences, we have different types of programs, from the startup support to support independent cultural centers, which are in the starting phase, to leadership program or exchange of staff, so members of one center can travel to another and spend a few weeks learning from the others. And we also have a few European projects or financed by the European Commission. And at the moment, the most important are CCSC, which stands for Cultural and Creative Spaces and Cities, which is a policy project of the European Commission to explore how cultural centers and cultural operators can work together with the public administration in co-designing public policies. Other projects relate to the concept of the creative industries, like DISCE, which is a research project to develop the impact or the research on the impact of cultural centers and not only cultural centers, the creative and cultural industries. And so this might give you a bit of an idea of what we do. Then the membership, we have two types of members, the full members, let's say, and the associates, which don't meet all the criteria. So what are the criteria for becoming a member of Trans-Europal? It's to be based in an industrial building or a building which has been revitalized or repurposed, to work with contemporary art and culture, and to be aware of the social implications of culture. So this could be like the basic criteria to become a member. And here we have a few members. We have the Jam Factory. Bojena is here with us. And Mihailo, Ison, Isolatia. So I don't think anyone else, no? I mean, obviously Ofa Fabrik, Frido. So regarding COVID-19 and how it has impacted our members and the organization, I can start with how it impacted the coordination office. As I said, we are based here in Sweden. We are 10 to 12 people, including the interns. And from a financial perspective, it didn't impact us much because we are funded mainly by the public administration, from the local to the national, regional, and European. So that's like a steady source of finances for the organization. But obviously, since we work internationally, we travel a lot for participating in advocacy events. We organize international events. Obviously, all that had to be canceled and moved into digital versions of them. So, and then I think, and that we can discuss more later, I think from an emotional perspective, there has been a great impact in our organization, but also I would say in the sector. It has been like very hard times for everyone. And obviously that's you can see in the daily routines and the daily work and interactions with the people. Regarding our membership, the biggest impact has been financial. And this relates to what the main business model or the archetypical business model of our member centers. We could simplify it, dividing the income streams in 4 main groups. The first one is the public funding, which is around, in general terms, obviously, around 25%. Another 25% comes from the tickets of the events. Another 25 comes from the rental of the spaces. And the last 25% comes from bars and catering services. So as you can imagine, when the public administration closed, or the government closed all venues, yeah, there is no money coming from bars and catering. There is no money coming from events, tickets. So only the public funding has been steady in a way, and the rental of spaces was also compromised. So obviously the impact has been huge, and Fridо will tell you more about that. It's also important to note that most of our members don't have a cash reserve in case that something unexpected happens. So only about 35% of our members have this cash reserve. And this reserve, on average, is for keeping the center alive for 2 months. So as you can see, 65% don't have a cash reserve. So it has been tough in this sense. Employment, obviously, many of our member centers had to lay off their staff. Some had to be fired. And thanks to the public subsidies, many of them has been able to keep their employees receiving their salary, even if it was reduced. But these subsidies from the public administration are limited. So depending on the country, some of them are finishing now in October, others will finish at the end of the year. So I think the hardest part is still to come for many of us. Obviously, I'm talking in general terms, no? For whole Europe, I know that, for example, in Ukraine, the public funding is it's tiny if it exists at all. So yeah, and then, as I said before, I think the emotional impact has been huge. And that we can see in every meeting, conversation that we are having. So if we try to focus on the positive and the opportunities of this situation, I think COVID-19, this pandemic, is maybe an opportunity for going back to the core of our organizations, to what we do, to rethink or to focus on our values, rethink our purpose if it's necessary. It's time for strategic planning. It's time to try new things also. I know that many of our members have been exploring the digitalization of their activities. Some were totally against, saying, I cannot reproduce the experience of a theater performance digitally, so I won't do anything. But others have tried to explore it. And obviously, it's also a time for focusing on your audience, to keeping this flame alive in a way, and keep interacting with them, even if the center is not open. So I think, this is like a brief summary of what the situation has been for Transeuropal and our members. And yeah, if you would like, we can maybe watch the video, and that will shortly trigger some emotions and some ideas for a discussion.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Thank
Thank
you,
you, Hosse.
Hosse. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now I will share the video for everybody just in the chat. You will get a link, because as we mentioned before, if we will share it through the screen, the quality will be worse. Okay, so now I invite everybody to go to the email and see the video and see you. Jose, what is the duration of the video?
It's around 10 minutes, 9 something.
Okay, so yeah, so let's meet in 10 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, and please don't forget to mute your mic while watching, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Dear colleagues, let's be back slowly.
Jose, thank you for this video. I know you are the producer of the video. It's been very emotional, I'm sure, for all of us, because we understand the situation. We are all in this in the same situation, and you managed to show it very on very human level. It's very touching. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will have time for discussion and questions and answers afterward. I would like to introduce Fridо Hinde, who was a part of the movie. You already met him about talking about UFA-Fabrik, one of the member institutions in Trans-Europe Health. Frido, tell us, how do you feel inside from a cultural center? How this big situation affects you, and what do you do with it?
Yes, first of all, hello everybody, and thank you very much for inviting me. I hope you can hear me well. So maybe just to give you a little idea of the UFA-Fabrik, I don't have the time now to give a historic wrap up, but let's say from year to year, we basically produce around about 350 to 400 events in the field of performing arts. Doesn't matter if it's music or comedy or dance or theater, all these different arts are produced and shown at UFA-Fabrik. In addition to this, we also run constantly artist in residence projects. So we invite international artists to produce their arts at UFA-Fabrik. And we have been existing now for 40 years. So that means we have quite a bit of stuff. It's not a cultural center with 2 or 3 persons working and mainly volunteers, but people really, really rely on the income that they receive at UFA-Fabrik. And it's like many people. On the one hand, people that are employed by us, and then also freelancers. Especially freelancers are the light and sound engineers and the artists, of course. Why I mentioned this, simple explanation. In March 2020, when the COVID-19 became really a pandemic, it was also decided that in Germany, public events were completely forbidden, so prohibited. We had no chance anymore to run any of our events. Neither did we have the chance to rent out our spaces. As Jose explained earlier, this is also the case for UFA-Fabrik, that in addition to our own events, it's also a very important source of income to rent out our rooms. And from one day to the other, we just didn't have the chance anymore to gain only €1 from our main activities. Of course, we still had a bit of government funding, which we luckily get in Germany, but this government funding is by far not enough to cover our costs. And so what did we do then? Okay, we had to cancel all the events. There was no chance anyways. Then, because we are in Germany, we had the chance to apply for so-called short working money. I don't know if there's any of such schemes in the Ukraine, but that means basically that for the persons who were fixed employed with us, who had a fixed working contract, we had the chance to put them on 0 hours of work, so they didn't work at all, but we get 60% of their normal wage from the government, and we had the chance to still pay them at least 60% of their normal wage. But this was the chance only for the persons who were fixed employed by us, who had employment contracts. All the freelancers, they were laid off completely, so we couldn't offer them any job anymore. And this were also people who had been relying on, I don't know, 5 or 10 years maybe, relying on the money that they received from UFA-Fabrik because we could give them jobs all the time, but there was no chance anymore for us. So basically this was what happened in March. This was a big, very difficult situation for me personally, for my colleagues, for the people that we work with. I remember I received calls from people who asked me, is there not any chance that you can offer me some kind of job, because I have 2 kids and I have an apartment, I have my rent to pay, and I don't know how to do this because I also don't have reserves. So this was really dramatic in a way. And at the same time, of course, we tried to be, what can I say, to be professional, but also to be innovative and creative, and to think about okay, how to overcome this very difficult situation. So what we basically did in April and May was that we devoted our rooms to persons, artists and also technicians that had the capabilities to start to do online or digital events. We didn't ask for any rent because we wouldn't have the chance to rent out the rooms anyway in this time. But there were artists who said, okay, they want to try something. There were technicians who said, we want to try something. So we produced a lot of digital streams. It was quite funny because the first streams were, to be perfectly honest, they were really bad. They were not good. There was somebody in front of a camera without different angles, without different cameras, just doing their show. And in the end, after 6 or 8 weeks, it became really quite professional. I was quite proud about this because there were artists and technicians who just locked in our theaters for 12 hours a day and were trying to get better and better and better with the digital formats. But of course, this also couldn't pay their bills. But I just want to show that, of course, people had creativity and had a positive mindset at the same time. Okay, I'm supposed not to speak too long, so I come to the next point. Middle of June, at least in Berlin, it was the 20th of June, we had the chance to start again with our public program, but under very strict conditions. So the months of May, we basically used to write our hygienic concept, which we had to agree upon with all the authorities here in Berlin. So I and 2 colleagues of mine, we became kind of profis in the field of hygienic concept. So we had to develop, okay, how many people can we fit into our theaters? How can they walk in? How can they walk out? How can they go to the toilet? How can they get back to the seat without interacting? That was really strange to us to develop this concept, because usually a place like Uferfabrik wants to have the people who come to Uferfabrik to interact with each other and to get close to each other, want to have them in discussion and to have a beer together after the show and in the break and so on. And now we had to get away from this idea and produce events where the people just enter the room, go to their space, maybe go to the toilet, go back to their seat, but without meeting anybody, and then leaving the theater and go home straight away again. This was somehow against our mindset, but at the same time, we wanted to produce arts pieces. So we went on with this hygienic concept. In the end, we figured that we had the chance, if we were sold out every night, we had the chance to reach 25% of our normal capacity. So simple explanation, our open air theater usually fits up to 400 persons. Now, completely sold out, we had 100 persons. This again leads to the fact that even though we could conduct events again, we still didn't have the chance to pay the people a fair amount for their work because we didn't have enough income. So the artists that usually play at Uferfabrik on a kind of box office split, that means from the money that come in, they get a certain percentage. They lost 3/4 of their income because they couldn't sell 400 tickets anymore, but only 100. So what we did was we broke it down to solo shows and very, very small ensembles. On the one hand, also because the people on the stage would need to keep a physical distance, but also because there was no chance to pay for bigger ensembles anymore. We just didn't have the income. What we also did was we focused on artists from Berlin or from cities nearby. We canceled completely all our international performances. And we had quite a lot of cool performances planned for this year. We had, for example, a female Canadian opera project, which was supposed to come in October. We had Cambodian musicians who were supposed to perform at Uferfabrik. We had South American or Latin American musicians who were supposed to perform at Uferfabrik. We were supposed to invite a puppet theater from Taiwan. And all these projects, we had to cancel them completely because there was no chance. And this brings me to another critical point or crucial point, as I said in the beginning, we are usually also conducting international artist in residence programs. And those programs, we plan them up to 1 or 2 years in ahead, usually, which is necessary because we have to go for the funding. The artists might have to go for the funding. And now there's no chance anymore to plan these projects far ahead because we don't even know what will be the next so-called risky area. From which countries are people allowed to travel to Germany? Where can we travel to? Where can the people, once they came to Berlin, travel safe back home without going to quarantine? So in this artist in residence projects, from usually being the long-term planned projects, they became completely spontaneous. It's more like we receive a call from a group from Switzerland or from Italy saying, are we risk group at the moment for you? We can check, we say no. They say, is your apartments available? We say yes. They say, we still have a little bit of funding left. Can we come for 2 weeks to produce? We say yes, okay, they come. So it's kind of from a very good planned process, we come to kind of spontaneous happenings, which is also interesting, but it makes things very difficult when it comes to funding, of course. So this works now only with groups who have a little bit of money already because they can afford to come to Berlin and to stay. But it's more difficult with the groups from the countries where we know we have together to write, I don't know, an application to the Goethe Institute or to some other institutions. Yeah, maybe status quo. For the moment, we lost round about, as in absolute numbers, we lost round about, I don't know, 200 to 250,000 euros, which makes maybe round about, I don't know, 15-20% of our total income. We will lose more, obviously, because we can do events at the moment, but we cannot reach the full capacity, and we still have problems renting out the space. I don't know how is the situation in your country, but in Berlin, at the moment, especially the last 2 weeks, the numbers are increasing again. So they all start about the second wave. So we were really, really hoping that by now, by October or November or December, the rules to conduct events might become a bit more loose and normal again. Now it seems the opposite. They get more strict again. Only yesterday night, there was a new law introduced that, for example, all bars and discos and so on in Berlin, they have to be closed by 11 p.m. So that's not, I mean, we are a theater or a cultural center, but still we run a bar. So it's very difficult. It also looks like the rules for theaters will not be, how can I say, be eased or become more loose in the next weeks. So apparently we will have to cope with the situation for at least a couple of more months. Maybe if there will not be a vaccination, maybe we talk about years. I don't really know. We all don't really know. So the only thing that we can do is we can try to cope with the situation, and we can make our plans on very short term at the moment. We don't really make long-term plans. Yeah, that's basically a short wrap up from me. Let me check something. No. If there's anything that is of interest for you in particular, I'm very happy to answer questions, of course. I know that we're going to have a little discussion. Also, let me say again, thank you, Jose, for showing the movie. It's really also for me very, very emotional all the time to see it again. It's really, really hard. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. And now I'm open to question. I think Jose too, or Julia maybe moderates the process.
Yeah, I can help with that. Thank you from my side also. And we got a few questions while you both were talking. So if you go to chat, you can read the questions. I can read it out loud just to remind. The first question was from Ilya to Jose. What is your general feeling, your network institution? Are they waiting for the things to get back to the normal core offline as it was before, and then forget about COVID? Or are they reshaping totally for online right now? So be back or thinking about new formats. Maybe you can, Hosse, you can answer, and then maybe Fridolin can add something.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to know what's gonna happen, as Fridolin was saying, and it also depends a lot on the country that you are based. For example, here in Sweden, we've been kind of an exception, and we could just live a regular life, and there were venues that were open, even if they had these measures in which not many people could be inside, but things were just going as usual, more or less. In other countries, it's been terrible, like Spain or Italy. So back to normal, yes, it will come for sure. We will also integrate what we have learned during these months or maybe 1 year into our ways of operating and our program, integrating also the digital version of our events. But it's difficult to say what will come.
Thanks. Fridolin, do you have something to add?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I tried to say in my little talk already that we did focus a lot on digital or online projects, but for sure, this will not be, how can I say, this will not be the new normality for us. We are really, really hoping to get back to normal social physical exchange with our audience. And we really, really hope that soon we can have full theaters again. And at the same time, we might continue with the streamings because it was kind of cool. And of course it is, how can I say, up to date. And we want to continue this, but we don't want to lose our old normal situation.
Yeah, thanks. And also I saw the question from, even 2 questions from Irina. Maybe you can jump in and ask by yourself, Irina, please.
Okay. I had one question is related to those asked by Ilya. Do you have any forecast for next year? How do you think, would the things get better by the end of 2021 at least? Because of course there are different predictions, so it's interesting for me to hear your opinion and your thoughts on that. Would it be possible to back to more or less normal activities, offline activities by the end of 2021, or we should prepare ourselves for longer period of waiting? And the second one is about any specific examples of cultural centers and how they engage their community online. If you have any specific examples which you consider being efficient and successful and good case practice, which could be a good example for others, for example.
Yeah, those are very good questions. I don't have the answers, but I think what we should have learned from all this is that we need to prepare for the unexpected. So in this sense, and I know it's a buzzword and it's just what everybody says, but building this culture of innovation in your organizations and being agile and able to respond to what might happen, because we don't know, is the critical thing at this point. I mean, in the last few years, I have seen these black swans. Do you know this theory of the black swan? For those who don't know, a black swan, it's a theory from, what's his name? Nassim Taleb. And he says, it's based on this old saying that black swans don't exist. All swans are white. But it happened that, yes, black swans exist, just that they are rare. And actually they exist in Australia. So, and I have seen several of these. I saw the 11th of September, 2001, the economical crisis, 2008-9, and now this pandemic. So, I mean, it happens constantly. We just need to be prepared to whatever comes.
And any examples of community engagement which you think were good examples, so good case practices, and were something more than just streaming some online activities, you know, but really building up the community through digital? No.
No, maybe Fridо. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, maybe what we tried to do was, of course, when we organized our online events, we gave all our, how can I say, regular guests and so on the chance, or we asked them if they wanted to. They could either buy a so-called virtual ticket, or they could also make a donation. Both was possible. The donation could simply be an advantage for them because we could issue a little paper to them, which is good for the tax. Just to give a short explanation why we offered both. And anyways, what we realized was that really there's a strong community around Uferfabrik of persons who were really willing to donate money and to buy those virtual tickets, even though they could see the event on YouTube for free. They wouldn't necessarily need to buy a ticket or to donate something, but they did so. And there was even, I mean, there was persons who donated €2.50 or €5 because they don't have much money and they were hit strong by the pandemic too. But then there was also this lady who I think was a retired doctor, and she donated €1,000. So we really felt, I mean, nobody knows who donated how much, only I know. So but all these people, they felt like our community, yes, they are helping the Uferfabrik. We tried to continue produce events for them, and it felt like a strong connection between us and them. And they started to write on YouTube while they were seeing the live streams. I so much hope to come by the next time again as a live concert, or to have a coffee with you together. So it really, I felt it was like a strong community. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that answers. And in the chat, we have the last question written down, and I would ask Oksana to ask it out loud.
Thank you, Hosse and Fridо, for this speaking. And my question about how do you feel that people audits get tired for this digital formats, online formats, and they want much more and more the offline formats, and this offline formats, as for me, are becoming especially valuable or not? Thanks.
Frida, do you want to go first?
Yeah. I think there is a certain point or truth in this question. When we started to do the streams and the online events, of course, this was something new for our audience, and there was kind of a hype. And after a couple of weeks or months, we all, how can I say, became sober again. So we all realized, okay, this will not be the new reality. There is something missing. There is the, how do you say, there is the physical events. They are valuable and they are missing, and we need them again, of course. Yeah. But my big hope is that for the future, the streams and the digital formats, they can be something that can be done in addition, that can from time to time be very interesting for the people, and that can also be very comfortable and nice formats to bring interesting kinds of arts to the living rooms of the people. But of course, the physical events cannot be valued high enough, I would say, yeah. And we realized this, yeah.
Yes. For me, yeah, we are humans, and in the end, we need the physical contact. It's like making love. You can find alternatives online, but it won't replace the real thing. And yeah, for us, we have also seen, since we are organizing all our events online, we have seen how the level of engagement of the participants decreases. So an example of our last conference, we had like 900 people registered. Of those 900, only around 30–40% actually attended. And during the day, the participation was declining till it got to 10% of the initial 900. So I think it's difficult to keep the engagement, the attention. And if you do this every day, it's really exhausting.
Thanks. And we got a new question from Ilya. Ilya, can you ask it?
So, actually, a very simple one. What you, Hosse and Fridо, you just talked is actually an amazing, examples of, from point of view of institutions. But how do you see even that hygienic concept, how it was perceived actually by audience? So I think it's, I mean, for you and for Hosse, in a sense of actually how people, audience, what is the trigger for their decision to go offline, even if they, hear in news about this COVID danger. And in Sweden, as I understand, there were no strict restrictions, just recommendations. And the same if, for example, in Germany, I don't know, they say from 1st of December, you can go whenever you want at your own risk. What will happen actually?
The perception of the audience, maybe I can say something, because I talked to many guests of our theaters, and basically the perception, speaking the bigger sum of the persons, was very, very positive. Most of our audience, they thanked us and they said, wow, thank you so much for making such an effort for a good hygienic concept. And we see that you're responsible and you have had reasonable reasons to do so. And at least in the beginning, in June and July, before every show or event, I myself stepped on the stage and explained also our hygienic concept to the audience, because it was not so easy to understand immediately. It sounds strange, but because people would have to take one street to the toilet and another street back, for example. And because we had to ask everybody for their names and their addresses, and in terms of data security, people can be quite allergic to this. So I explained them that we only collect those data because in case that there is somebody infected with the COVID-19, we have to have the chance to reach out to everybody else who was there this evening. If this would not happen within 2 weeks, then we're going to delete all this data again. And the people then understood and said, yes, of course, then I give you my data and I trust you to delete it again and not to use it for any newsletters or something in the future. But I overall really had the feeling that it was perceived positive. I was rather a bit disappointed by the collaboration with the public authorities, because I mean, we wrote a big concept, we sent it to them as they wanted us to, and asked for their comments, and they only answered us back, if we have any critical comments, you will hear from us within the next 2 weeks. If not, well, just go on. Yeah, so they never answered. Okay, that can mean that our concept was totally perfect. It can also mean that they were overwhelmed with work and had too many concepts and didn't have the chance to comment on each concept. So we were a bit, how can I say, a bit let alone with our concept.
Thanks very much for the comments and answers and sharing your experience. Dear colleagues, friends, according to our schedule, we will have a lunch break now, 1 hour. But if you have any crucial comments or maybe questions now for Hosse and Frido, or some relatively question to the topic which we discussed before, I think maybe we can have 5-10 minutes for that. But for those who are planned to have this break from 15 to 16, you are like free to leave us. Just, yeah. If you have some question or comment regarding discussion, just indicate by your hand and jump in. Yeah, Asya, and then Diana. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation and for the video. And during all this, I was thinking about one thing which basically we're planning to do in my foundation. And I'm just wanted to ask you, maybe you have this experience and maybe you worked with this. So do you plan or did you try to dedicate some part of the energy in your institution to creating basically online content? I mean, maybe it could be YouTube channel, it could be podcasts, and this online format itself could possibly, at least, you know, people saying that these formats can generate money themselves. But we are on our way. Basically, we're on the start. We just have a good idea about the theme, but I'm really interested, maybe you had something like this in your institution's program.
Not at Transeuropal. We just created an Instagram channel because we didn't have one, and we saw, okay, it's a good moment to do it and to do it in a participatory way. So all our members are involved. So every week there is a member who is owning the Instagram account. But apart from that, no, we haven't developed any income generation stream, which is digital, no.
As I said before, we generated a little bit of income with the donations and the virtual tickets, but that was not really mentionable. So the costs were still higher that we would have had when we count all the costs for producing. But one thing that we managed to do was we applied successfully for one streamed festival. So we did a festival. We called it in German the Bardenale. That means basically, you could say a singer and songwriter festival. And we applied at the Music Board here in Berlin, which is a place which offers money for basically popular music productions. And we could require at least, I think, 5,000 euro to produce this online festival, and had the chance to pay a salary to the artists on the stage and to the technicians. But apart from that, it was rather difficult to really gain income with the digital formats.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Diana also had a question, yeah?
Yes, hi, thanks for your presentation and for being here. I'm Diana Birk, I'm from Mariupol. It's like the farthermost east of, like the end of Ukraine and the end of Europe. But we think it's the beginning actually. But anyway, we are very isolated and very distanced. So, and my comment is that we don't feel these, closed borders and the lack of mobility and deprivation of physical events that much, because we, even being bored of and exhausted of these online formats, we recently started feeling like more free and no borders at all in terms of, in terms of Europe. So I just wanted to ask, did you consider that this is like a new start, a new era of opportunities of creative, hybrid formats for artists to collaborate? Well, I mean, I will never have visited, Tokyo and Japanese residents if there were no COVID, because I just went to this home sharing residency with Koike in Tokyo, or now we are running this online art residency with House of Europe, like, and like we have to invent new formats, you know, not just either physical event or boring video Zoom stuff. So did you feel this boost of, you know, creative, inventive formats?
Yeah. Frida, do you have a good answer?
I mean,
yeah,
maybe not so so particular one answer, but of course, since everybody was working online, it was a bit easier to collaborate between countries where usually maybe one of the parties would have difficulties, I don't know, to buy the plane tickets to go to the other country because it's too expensive. And now, because they were working online, might have been, well, it didn't matter. You know, you could say, okay, I work with the artists in Cambodia as often as I work with the artists in London. Whereas if this all need to be physical projects, the artists from London might have the chance all the time to fly to Berlin, and the artists from Cambodia might every 5 years have the chance. But that's the only thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, but it's true that in a way the space dimension has disappeared. So everyone has access to everything equally. So you don't need to travel anywhere. People are collaborating. Equally, you have access to the same things that a person in Japan is having just because of this. So in a way, it has been a great experiment.
It's ongoing, maybe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thanks very much for these extra questions. And just last call.
I would have a question about planning. So we understand how everything is strict in Germany, and the formats you Frida told us, this uncertain situation and short-term planning is quite normal for Ukraine.
Okay.
Yeah. In this, but we understand the cultural and organizational differences between our countries. From your point of view about planning, if some Ukrainian organizations, for example, some partners approach you with a project idea, how free do you feel yourself in planning, and what would be your answer to them? Like, no 2 years long projects, it's too big, too far for us, or jump in spontaneously and we can do something together. And what about like applications and foundations you work with?
Yeah.
All this planning process.
No, we still try to engage in long-term projects with a certain partner or certain partners. For example, Erasmus Plus projects, or I mean, for the ones who don't know, they say the European Union projects to make it more easy. But at the moment, the reality changed a little bit. So when we start to talk about the projects, then from the beginning we say, okay, but we might have to plan those projects without physical meetings for at least the next year or the next 2 years. But of course, we still go for such projects, yeah? But in different terms, on a different reality. What we don't do that much is that we really plan, okay, in February we will invite a band from Brazil, and in March we will invite a theater group from China, and in April we will invite, I don't know, 3 Cirque Nouveau groups from Canada. This, we came a bit more reluctant with this kind of planning, because what happens when we sell 200 tickets and then 2 weeks before the show, the artists say, hey, we cannot come because now we are a risk area, or you live in a risk area, or or the rules became more strict again here in Berlin to conduct events. So in this kind of planning process, we became more reluctant. But planning and organizing cultural exchange projects with partners is something that we still do, but under different terms at the moment.
Yes, and for us at Transeuropal, yeah, we are open to new projects. Actually, that's what we've been doing quite a lot lately, looking for partners, hearing, having meetings to develop strategic partnerships. So yeah, definitely. And what we have learned is that you don't need to travel everywhere, because every time that in a European project, for example, every time that the partners travel, you are just like throwing away like 7,000 euros between the tickets, the accommodation, etc. So we can be more aware of those expenses, also the contamination, the pollution, and start doing more digital meetings for European projects, which, yeah, it's a good thing. So in any case, if you have any ideas, I'm sharing our email addresses with you.
Yeah, thanks.
So that you were thinking of something.
Yeah, great. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for the contacts. So please, our participants, feel free to contact Trans-Europe Halls for any questions and exchange. I would like to say that we are all in the similar situation, and we send words of our support to Uferfabrik, Friedo.
Thank you.
Keep doing that. Yeah, I hope all of us will have just enough creative energy to go through the situation and make lemonade from these lemons. Jose, our best wishes to the whole community, and we hope to have chance also to meet each other for any reasons. And yes, we will stay sustainable also with flying and our and our environment influence. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us today. It was a good input and good international contact for our group. We will take this information into discussion in our next boards, and it was very useful. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye, everybody.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.